And welcome back, everybody, live in Las Vegas, hour 2 of Hot Mic here on this Tuesday morning. And, boy, we upped the ante guest-wise to start the second hour of our show. Come a long way from slumming it in Macomb, Illinois. G. Taylor joins us in person, former North Dakota State athletic director, of course, now AD at Kansas State. It's great to see you. Thanks for making this happen. I appreciate it. You guys are right off the hop here. Did Klieman make sure that was a in-and-out thing here?
Yeah, he's not one to stick around for media days. He likes to get in and get out. It's normally we get flying in out of Dallas.
Yes.
So we do it at AT&T Stadium. This year they had a couple of reasons. This year had some challenges with the World Cup, I guess. And then we have so many teams now with Arizona State, Utah, Colorado. Our commissioner, who, if you've not met him yet, is very aggressive.
Yes.
He's a really forward thinker about how we do things, not only in the Big 12, but college athletics. And so he thought Vegas would be a great opportunity. So here we are.
What do you think?
I've not been in the stadium before. I've heard great things about it. And, you walk in, it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's certainly got a Vegas feel to it.
There's no doubt about that.
Particularly in some of the rooms in the back, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is, I mentioned off the top of the show, this is the beginning of the new era for this conference. You've been a part of it now for the last few years without Texas and Oklahoma here. Does it feel different? Does it? Everything about college athletics, I'm sure, feels weird.
Yeah, it does. And obviously, Texas and Oklahoma were certainly big brands for a lot of reasons. And, but I think from a Big 12 perspective, I think we've gotten stronger. I think the schools we brought in make us really, really competitive. But you're right. The world has changed. To think that there's no Pac-12 anymore and that, California and Stanford are going to be in the ACC. And, I think every conference is going to have that different feel this year. There's no question about it.
I asked you this last time you were on the show about what's A1. Has it changed of what's keeping you up at night?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or is it a variety of things?
Yeah, it's a variety thing. The biggest thing now is the settlement and the revenue share. We thought NIL was going to be a challenge, and it was. Yep. And I think we've all adjusted, and donors, particularly donors, have stepped up, and we figured that out. And now this one is – I told somebody the other day, I said, we faced a lot of challenges in college athletics over the years. We had the Alston money. Oh, my goodness, we're not going to be able to afford it. And then we had, cost of attendance. Oh, my goodness, we're not going to be able to afford it. When you add another $20 to $22 million on top of your budget, that affects everybody. And I was out recently in Vegas a few weeks ago, and we had our national convention. And when you have some of the most high-revenue institutions in athletics talk about this being a major challenge for them, it's a major challenge. And trying to get there just financially, but the other part of it is, what are we doing? We don't have the answers yet. This settlement isn't done. There's so much going into it, and there's so many unanswered questions. And these coaches are going to be making decisions in a few months about recruiting.
Yep.
And we've got to have those answers, and we just don't have them right now. So it's probably one of the biggest challenges as an industry.
So if it's a challenge for you, how do schools like North Dakota State, South Dakota State, how do they afford this, Gene?
Well, first of all, they don't have to, because they're not part of the settlement.
Right.
And it's just those of us in the Power Four now that have to come up with these dollars. What trickles down, I don't know. We're going to probably come up with some sort of roster management and roster numbers. That number could be 95 to 105. Well, right now, most of us carry 120.
Yep.
Does North Dakota State benefit because they don't necessarily may have to do that? I don't know what some of the rules are going to be, but they may be able to get more walk-ons. But from a financial perspective, they're going to have to share, from a basketball side of things, paying the back pay. But I just don't know. I don't think it'll affect them like it's going to affect us. I don't think they're going to have to come up with the 2022. Right. Because you could opt into that. And I think a lot of schools are going to be like, nah, I'm not so sure I will. They may stay with the NIL. They may stay the NIL route, in which I think it would work for them.
It's just bewildering. Every day I come on the show and I'm telling viewers, like, hey, okay, here's the next thing to keep it. I mean, I'm sure you have a checklist, right, in your office. Like, hey, this is what we got to tackle today.
I wish I did, because it literally changes. It feels like almost every day. And look, again, when I have staff come to me, in particular coaches, hey, Gene, what's the plan? What are we doing? We're going to come up with a plan, and we're going to attack different things. The biggest part of that is, where do we generate new revenue?
Yes.
We have to generate new revenue. And from sources that we haven't talked about. That's when you hear people talk about equity investment. We've never talked about that in college athletics, but I think it's something we have to look at. Donors are going to have to understand the importance of how they give and why they give. For us at K-State, we're very fortunate. We don't have massive facility needs right now. We're not going to be doing any $50 or $100 million facility project. So that is kind of one priority I don't have to worry about, or we don't have to worry about. But it's just such a different world right now, and we, I guess we'll figure it out. We figured out a lot of other things, but
I shake my head at it. It's like, I don't know where. I love at college athletics, but it's just harder to recognize.
It really
even from when you got into it, and I'm not going to date you, but from when you got into it to now, it's just.
I'm at the back end. I'm at the back nine of my career. I think I'm about hole 16 right now.
Well, I'm thinking, because Commissioner Yormark has talked about renaming the, to get sponsorship rights for the league. I'm sure that probably rankles some feathers, but if it'll bring in money, I mean, you're not gonna say no.
Well, that's what when I talked earlier about him as a commissioner, is he just looks at things so differently. He brings a perspective from outside of college athletics, and he's about revenue generation. And for some of us ADs in the room that have been around for a while, it's a little different conversation. But I've literally told my staff, guys, I know I'm at the back end of my career, or later in my career, but I really have to change my thought process. I really have to look at things and not be stuck in how we used to do it. Because if you're stuck in how we used to do it, you got to get over yourself, because that's not working anymore.
So your good friend Tim Miles was in Fargo in December and spoke to the new Green and Gold Collective and said, it's adapt or die. It's either you got to get on board, and was speaking to Bison fans in Fargo, Gene, about it. And I think I've been saying it, but I think hearing it from somebody in it, I think really hit home for people that, okay, we either get on board, or we're going to see some of our best players decide to go elsewhere because there's opportunities to do that.
Well, if you think about it, and Tim was part of the transition from D2 to D1, and he had similar conversations back then. It's like we've got to adjust. If we don't adjust and adjust to the Division I world, we're not going to be successful. Well, guess what? The donors adjusted, and people adjusted, and fans adjusted, and they went out and they recruited differently. And I think this is going to be a similar situation, that we all have to adjust if we want to stay in it and we want to stay competitive.
All right, I'm going to talk on the field stuff here. First, I asked Klieman about this after the bowl game. Do you have a favorite Pop-Tart now after that? And what was that experience like?
I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
It was very, very creative. I tell this story, and people have heard it before, but I kind of made a snide comment when they introduced the trophy. There were 2 Pop-Tarts in the trophy. Then I said, that's the most Pop-Tarts I've seen since I've been here, because we didn't have them in our hospitality room.
Really?
No, we didn't. Not like full Pop-Tarts. The next morning, I had 65 boxes of Pop-Tarts lined up in my hotel room. So, anyway, I had a lot of different choices. But I kind of like the strawberry.
Okay.
But there were flavors I didn't even know existed. But
that's a crystal.
The bowl did a really, really good job. Yeah. The kids had a great time. Obviously, it was a great opponent. Boo Corrigan is the athletic director there. He and I had been serving on the CFP committee together, so it was just a lot of fun for a lot of tie-ins. But it was a good win for us.
Heck of a contrast from the Sugar Bowl the year prior with the prestige. And I know I talked to you before that of going to that. Did it feel like A to Z or not so much?
Yeah, obviously there's a little bit. You know, you're at a New Year's Six bowl game. You're playing a team like Alabama. Right. The look and feel that. But I think for, just again, going back to how much has changed, it was a very different team, right?
Right.
We lost a lot of our players for different reasons. Some were preparing for the NFL draft. Some had joined the portal. Coach talked about he was the worst, not the worst. It was the hardest few weeks of bowl prep because he spent so much time not talking about North Carolina State. He had to talk about the portal. And by the time we got to Florida, he was looking at the team going, I'm not so sure who we have out here. And so for them to, go out and play and win, and we had Avery Johnson, who is, you've heard a lot about him, goes out and plays a phenomenal game, and some faces that are going to have a major impact this year. So in that case, it was good. It felt differently, but I will tell that the bowl did a phenomenal job of our athletes having a great experience.
I got to ask about NDSU hiring Tim Polasek. Give me an early impression when you first met the man and what stuck out to you way back then.
His energy and his passion. I tell you, I don't think he's changed much. Maybe he's calmed a little bit.
I think he's mellowed a little bit, but a lot of it's still the same.
And obviously there's some newer connections now with Coach Klieman's son, Devin, and my son being up there. I get a lot of stories, and they love it because they've known him forever, right? And so they see the same Tim. But I think it's a great hire. I think Tim will do a great job. I think he will learn to tie back into, okay, what have we built on and to be a champion and some of the things that he's going to bring to the table. Obviously, he's going to push, and there's going to be a lot of energy, and he's going to be, he's going to be Tim Polasek. Yep. It'll be stressful, I'm sure, at times, but I think, and I don't know the entire staff that they've hired, but I think it was a great move.
You mentioned your son, Jared. I got to visit with him and Devin Klieman. How special is that to have? And tell me, I talked to him. Give me your perspective when he said, hey, Dad, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah, I told him he's crazy if he doesn't take it. For a lot of reasons. He's North Dakota State, right? And the tradition and the history of that school obviously was it hits home for him.
Yes.
I mean, he was 2 years old when we moved there. To be able to work for a guy like Polasek and learn from him. And, he was an offensive guy, and he was a play quarterback, and I think he wanted to be on the offensive side of the ball, but they saw something in him, and they moved him to be like a defensive analyst. I said, dude, that's great for you.
Yeah.
You want to be a head coach. You got to learn to coach more than just quarterbacks. He is so happy to be there because there's so many things that are familiar to him, donors and just coaches and just the familiarity of it. He's told me some great stories of people not knowing his connection, and then they would go, oh, I didn't know you. So, but he's loving it. He's learning a lot. I think it'll be a great opportunity for him. And I said, Jared, that is perfect for you. And he literally every time you talk to him, you just feel the smile on his face and the happiness of him being there.
I did a little homework. You have a bye week. The same week North Dakota State is playing the University of North Dakota. Is there an opportunity to see the Taylors back in Florida?
Yeah, I think that's probably planned. There's also a discussion of jumping up and seeing you guys play North Dakota State play Colorado on the Thursday night. Rick George and I are friends, and he and I served on the CFP committee. And I told him, I said, if I come up, he goes, yeah, you can sit in my suite. I said, I might not be wearing your. And he goes, that's okay. I said, yeah, it'll be okay until about the fourth quarter, brother.
When you heard that North Dakota State got selected to play on Thursday night, was there any, not knowing full well Dion is obviously driving a lot of that, but I mean, ESPN still has a love affair with the buys, and it goes back to College Game Day in 2013.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. And again, you talk about brands. That North Dakota State's got a brand. Yep. And there's a story that everybody knows about. When you play North Dakota State, you better strap it on. And I guarantee you, if the Colorado coaching staff doesn't understand that, they will come that Thursday night. And you're right. I think it's a great opportunity, again, for exposure, from a recruiting perspective, to go on and have a chance to play Colorado in a national stage on a Thursday night.
You do scheduling all the time, and ESPN, a big story came out. So whoever scheduled that game should be fired. Pete Thamel, I just saw, is here from ESPN. So now you're on the other end of it. Yeah. How difficult is? I know you got two other Missouri Valley schools you're playing, at least for now, on the schedule. I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. Like, how do you do that, and can you continue to do it now, knowing the playoff is expanding? Those games don't help you. What do you do going forward?
Well, I think it's part of the conversation. And now that I've been on the committee, and obviously there's discussions on the committee about what it means to go to 12. I mean, we still have to go through the same process. Our biggest discussion, from a Big 12 is we play 9 conference games, and then we play a 10 Power 4 non-conference. So, we need to fill our home games, and whether that's with an FCS or, an FBS, I still think we need to try to do that. Playing an FCS, yes, it doesn't help you because of how they're ranked in the CFP selection. But, you got to be selective, right? And so if anybody thinks North Dakota State's going to be on Kansas State's scheduling.
I said that earlier.
It ain't happening.
I know that.
Nor will South Dakota. And I know we've got UND coming up.
Right.
I'm like, I didn't handle that one, so.
That's right. That was done before you got there.
Yeah,
because I was going to say, because for any Missouri Valley schools that are on, I'm going to ask Mike Gundy that. Like, for Oklahoma State's playing South Dakota State.
Like,
he cannot be happy. But that's how they're starting. The Jacks have won 29 games in a row. I equate that similar to you guys going to K-State in 2013.
Yeah.
Two-time champs. And went in there and did it. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, it's and I think the one thing I think coaches are a little bit more aware of is they're paying attention to the South Dakota States, North Dakota States, the FCS schools, because they are putting together really good football teams, and we've known that for a while. I do think, I'll never forget we were at Iowa. Kurt Ferentz called me and said, "Gene, please talk to our football team about North Dakota State." I'm looking at their eyes, and they were glassed over like, "Yeah, sure, buddy." And I'm like, all right. Said, and I told our media when I was at Iowa, if North Dakota State's in this game in the fourth quarter, watch out. And sure enough, we all know what happened. And talk about getting yelled at. I got yelled at because they thought I scheduled it at Iowa.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. You get all the slings and arrows there, huh?
Yeah.
So, about today, what are your main roles today, or are you just here to observe? What's going on for you today? Besides doing this.
Well, Brett just asked athletic directors to try to come because of the newness and who's going to be here. I just kind of come and support our players and coach, and I just really watch and learn and see who's, obviously what the coaches are talking about other programs. Of course, it's all pretty vanilla, right?
No doubt.
And I just walk around. I've gotten to know a lot of the media, so every once in a while somebody will grab me, "Hey, you got 5 minutes?" And I'll jump on a radio show or talk to a media person. I'm sure the questions will be very similar about the settlement. But and I just love coming because I think it just signifies that the football is just around the corner. And I just said this to Coach Gundy. I saw him and I said, "Coach, as much as I enjoy the 4th of July, I really don't like it because the next thing you know, the summer's over and we are playing football games."
I just said that yesterday. It was our poll question. After this, the summer over now because the 4th of July.
Feels like
right? We're talking
like
football here. I want to ask you a couple questions here before I know you got to go.
No,
you're rolling everything. It's not just football. You got almost everything going. Women's basketball had a dynamite year. I know men's basketball wasn't as successful as the previous year. Baseball, softball. How proud are you of that everything is good right now?
Well, it keeps the emails to a minimum. That's the emails to a minimum. We've just been very fortunate. We've got great coaches that we've been able to assemble. Now, Coach Mitty had been there for a while, and I think they're going to be really good again this year. Women's basketball coach, Coach Hughes to make it to a super regional this year in baseball. It's a lot of fun.
Especially after you should have made it last year, by the way.
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of what we talked about. And a lot of those kids came back because
they missed out.
They wanted to try to get that far, and to be able to follow them and be at those games with the team. It's a lot of fun, and we've got coaches that understand K-State, understand the culture. I'm telling you, Dom, there is a lot of similarities of feel between North Dakota State and Kansas State in terms of the culture and how to build the programs the right way, the fan base, the passion of the fan base. There's a lot of feel to it. And, when you can sit there and watch your teams have success, I tell my staff and our donors, the best part of my job is watch our key kids, our athletes, prepare for games and competition and then having success. And then there's the times when they don't have success that it just breaks your heart, like our women, the tears in that post-game.
Right.
I literally had to walk out of the media post-game press conference. But that's the best part of my job. Following the baseball team this year was absolutely phenomenal because I know that those athletes came back for that reason, and to see the joy in their faces to walk out of Arkansas as a regional champ. It's the best part of my job.
You got time for a couple more minutes here?
Sure.
All right, we're going to break a quick break. We'll come back much more with Gene Taylor. We're live in Las Vegas, Big 12 Media Days. Kansas State coming up here in about an hour when they'll be speaking. Chris Klieman will be up at the podium. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on live in Las Vegas. That's just kind of surreal for us to say here at Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. I see Chris Klieman over my left shoulder here. He's wearing a suit coat. Boy, he did. Yeah, he has got to the big time now.
Well, our players all have a NIL deal with one of our local,
there you go.
Supplier, the suit guys there.
Yeah.
The Work Brothers, they're really good. And Klieman got his look. He said, "I better wear a suit." So
he's looking sharp.
Yeah, he does.
We're going to see if we can grab him here when he gets done in a second. You mentioned your time. I'm always intrigued on the CFP committee. Now with going to 12, huge, obviously the biggest story to me, and now with your league at 16 teams, how it's not going to become the SEC Big Ten Invitational. What do you guys have to do on the field to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously we just have to be good in our conference, right? And being on the committee, we really don't look at the conferences necessarily. I mean, when I'm in the room, I can't talk about Kansas State. Like if we're talking about I've got to leave. But if they're saying, like last year we played Texas and probably should have beat them, they're asking me, well, Gene, what's Texas like? Well, they're really good. So you can kind of promote other schools, but it's really about how good is that football team, not what conference they're in. And people get all jaded by the fact, oh, it's SEC, but there's 12 teams, and they're going to vote on the 12 best teams.
Right.
And if you look at last year, it wouldn't have been that way. I mean, if we had 12 teams, that'd have been a mix of a couple of different groups in there. The difference, I think, is going to, because we've always had to, the top 12 are all important because of the New Year's 6 bowl games, right? But what gets difficult, is getting more difficult now, is 9 through 15. Those resumes are going to look really the same.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of 9-3s and maybe a 10-2, and their strength of schedules and that's going to be really hard. The top 4 are going to be, oh yeah, okay, those are easy.
Set them right.
Set those, and the rest of them, I guarantee you, those resumes, they're going to have a long time. And if we'd have done a 12 team last year, Oklahoma was the 12th team. They wouldn't have made it because Liberty would have gotten it.
Right. Correct.
And that's what we talked about controversy. We thought we had controversy last year. So I don't think it will be. And I think as a conference, we just have to go out and do what we do, win games outside of our conference, and try not to kill each other.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But, the SEC is going to change. No more Nick Saban. No more. Now you've got Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, they're going to beat each other.
Correct.
And so I don't think you're just going to have this massive Big Ten.
Like a
SEC.
behemoth out there? Okay.
I don't. I mean, you might have 4 schools, 2 from each, and then 2 from the Big 12, and, whatever, a couple from each. I just think that's what now, I could be wrong. I'm not in the room this year, but be interesting.
I don't want you to pass out on this, but I don't know if you saw the FCS has decided to seed the top 16. Something you were pining for 10 years ago is actually going to happen this year.
That's good.
How much more will that make a national tournament so we don't see, like you did, you remember NDSU, SDSU play twice over in the second round of the tournament?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into it. I did see that, and great for them that they're finally going to go in that direction. I do think it'll make it better. And, not that the 2 best teams haven't typically made the championship there, but sometimes that wasn't the case.
Yep.
Sometimes those semifinal games were a lot more
interesting.
That
was that Georgia Southern game in 2012 was the championship game.
There's no question about it. And so that'll be good. That'll be good for the FCS and and the teams.
Speaking of this, by the way, the connections here are crazy because Willie Fritz is here, and Willie Fritz obviously was the coach at Sam Houston for those first 2 championships. I don't know, is there any bragging rights do you have there? Will you see him when you do that when the season gets going?
I don't know if Klieman does a little bit, but we smile at each other. What we've done is we've talked about just those games, right?
Man. Just that first time to Frisco, and I just what we didn't know, and all of us in part of it, me covering it, you experiencing it, that was just something else that first time down there.
If they would have put a blood pressure cuff and a heart rate monitor on me, they would have sent me right to the hospital. I was so dang nervous coming to the end of that game. I don't know how I survived it, but maybe because I was quite a bit younger then. Today's world, that would happen. For when we played the Big 12 championship, I wasn't at the game.
Yeah,
I was in my hotel room because I was on the
committee.
I couldn't go.
Oh.
Yeah, I scared some poor cleaning lady.
When you guys won it? Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Last question. You were always known for being on the sidelines. Can you still do that? Or are you up shaking? You can't do that anymore?
No, I'm
okay,
on the
you could, because I was curious
and
about
I told
that.
my staff, I said, here's what I want to do. I want to be down there in the first quarter. I'll come up in the middle of the second quarter, halftime. You have me through halftime and through the middle of the third quarter. And we go around, we hit suites, and we see people. The good thing about Kansas State, again, I think it makes it, is a lot of the people that are there are people I see on a pretty regular basis. Yeah. But it's nice to go in and say hello and spend some time. And then I'll go to our suite, and we usually have guests in there, and I'll stay in there until the fourth quarter, then I go back down. But they understand that I'm there to watch the football game, and I'm into watching the football game. And I haven't changed. Maybe I've calmed a little bit.
I'm glad to know that's the case, though.
But we had that conversation early on. Guys, at basketball games, a little different. We've got more games, but I need to watch the game. But that's what I enjoy doing.
It's great to see you. I know it's a big weekend for the family because Casey's getting married, so congratulations on
Friday. That. Yeah, absolutely.
It's great to see you, and we'll catch up during the season, all right? I'm looking forward to seeing you in Fargo in October, all right?
Appreciate you guys, and we miss Fargo, miss our friends, and it was a great time, and we maybe have some more chance to come back.
We still got a Taylor there.
That's
still there with Jared.
Probably the better. He was a way better coach than I could ever be. So.
Great to see you, bud.
Right,
Gene Taylor, Kansas State Athletic Director, joining us here on Hot Mic. We'll break. We'll see if we can get the boss over here. He's the real boss, right?
Well, my wife is, as Ron is with him.
Hot Mic back live in Las Vegas right after this.